Chad here from the Coven. I'm sure some of you have seen me around Facebook, but today I want to bring something a little bit different and a little bit special. I want to talk to you about layering and how specifically I used it on this piece. So what I want to talk about specifically is down here on the very bottom. Not so much the tree, I'm not going to talk about that, but I want to talk about how I built up this very natural looking piece here and how I use layers to accomplish it. I may do some more of these tips and trick videos in the future, and if I do, I'm going to start calling these Coven Creations. I'm starting off with some normal household acrylic caulk that you can get for only a few dollars at your local hardware store. I find this stuff to be an amazing product for basing and covering all sorts of things. I covered the tree in it as well. From here, I'm going to move on to some leaf-like material. I'm using oregano leaves. I would actually suggest not using oregano, maybe some tea leaves or something, because this stuff smells really bad. But whatever you have lying around, just go raid your cupboards. This here is a household mix I made with some dark tile grout and some sand that I found outside. I really like it because it adds like a really rich earth texture to it. And then lastly, I'm gonna go ahead and add in just some more dark tile grout. I really love this for miniatures because it really mimics dirt well. I find using sand can be a little bit too coarse and makes miniatures look like they're walking around on gravel. So from there, I'm just gonna go ahead and add in a little bit of paint here. You see, I'm just using some brown acrylic paint. It's gonna start coloring that white acrylic caulk. I like to just make it into like a muddy looking mixture. From there, I actually have some inks that I want to go ahead and add as well. So I'm starting with some burnt umber here. I'm adding just some. I would suggest starting with less and then adding more as you go, because you obviously can't take any out, but you can definitely add more in. So from there, after I added my brown acrylic ink, I went ahead and added some black acrylic ink as well. It's just going to darken up the entire mixture. Now that our mixture is in the cup and ready to go, let's grab some coffee stir sticks and start whipping away. So I like using 2 coffee stir sticks here because the mixture is actually really heavy, so you just want something sturdy. I guess you don't have to use coffee stir sticks, I just like them because you could toss them away afterwards. But as you can see here, I end up with a dark, muddy texture. It looks really kind of gross and not anything that I would want to walk in. But whenever it dries, it actually loses that shine that you can see. Now it's time to put this muddy mixture onto the base of our piece. So I really like base coating it in this, not only because it fills gaps and really helps kind of make your piece flow better, but also if you ever get any chips in the future, all you're gonna see is this muddy texture mixture. I've done this in the past where I've painted over the top of something, and if you get a chip, then you can see whatever color's underneath it. But with this, ever since I started using this, it's been really amazing because I really can't tell if I damage my piece at all, especially on the basing on the bottom. As you saw before, I had some foam underneath it. That was just to fill in some gaps, because if you do make this stuff too thick, it'll crack and start pulling apart. So just fill in the areas inside with a little bit of foam or whatever you have lying around. That way you're not just stacking up the acrylic caulk here. After you're done really spreading it all around though, you can just let it dry. I would suggest about 24 hours. That's a good time frame to let that stuff dry. So as you can see here, the piece doesn't look as shiny as it did before. It's really got that nice dirt color to it. So from there, I went ahead and added some watered down PVA. We all know we've used it before. And I'm adding in some of that homemade dirt and tile grout mixture right onto the top of the base coat of that brown acrylic caulk. And then just kind of dumping it out. I found this tin outside. I love it. I use it for everything because I can knock off whatever I've put on top of my pieces and then pour it right back in, so I'm not wasting anything. So go ahead and do that to both pieces. And again, this is all about layers. So we started with the brown acrylic mud caulk stuff. I'm now adding in my dirt because you don't know what pieces and what areas you're not going to be able to see. And it really helps sell the idea that this is a real live piece as opposed to something that I've just made in my house. Alright, now that the dirt's down, it's time to add in our flock. And I got this flock in particular from Geek Gaming Scenics, and Luke has a business where he sells this stuff, and it is amazing. It's actually a foam flock of varying sizes, so it adds in some really rich texture and it has different colors already in it. And I just find that it works out really well for all types of stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and add it right on top of some watered PVA glue. Sprinkling it on with my fingers, and go ahead and just make it as dense as you want it to be. I added a little bit more because this piece doesn't have as many trees around it, but if you had more dense trees, I would add a little bit less to make it look dirtier on the ground. To keep a more natural look, I'm actually going to spread out the flock a little bit more on this smaller base. In natural scenery, you can see that grass is normally intermixed with patches of dirt. So I kind of tried to mimic that here, and I think it just gives it a more realistic look. From there, I watered down my PVA mixture just a little bit more, put it into a little squirt bottle, and sprayed it over the top, and that's going to lock everything into place. The next layer we're going to add is static grass. So whenever I watered down my PVA, I actually kept the mixture just a little bit thicker, and that helps grab the static grass just a little bit more. I also don't have a static grass applicator, so I use my fingers just kind of sprinkling it on there. It works out pretty darn well, especially on a smaller piece like this. If I was doing a bigger table or something, I don't think it would work out very well because the static grass kind of lays down, but you can really get away with it on small pieces like this. I didn't use it on the last piece, but sometimes I like to use this little wire mesh piece that I had cut out here to help me spread out my static grass. It just helps it kind of stand up a little bit more and spread it out. I also wanted to keep it looking a little bit more natural with that dirt patch in the middle, and that really helped me achieve that goal instead of over flocking it. From there, I'm going to add in some fallen leaves. I glued those down the same way I've done everything else. I think these ones are from Green Stuff World. Scott from the Facebook group actually gave these ones to me and sent them all the way out to Okinawa, so thanks a lot, bud. We're finally beginning to finish up layering this piece. Here's some reindeer moss that I got from Terrain for Games, covered in that same flock that I had used before. I'm also using some Green Stuff World flower pieces here. This is flower brush, I believe, just sticking it right into the top of that bush, just varying the color and the texture. I like to add in my bigger pieces, such as bushes, before I go back and add in smaller details, such as these Army Painter grass tufts that I've got two different colors of. Talking about that reindeer moss, I'm going to go ahead and add in some different colors of reindeer moss around the model. And it really just adds in different colors and textures and really helps sell a realistic look here. And then that's it. I mean, we've layered this piece and made it look very realistic, and it came out wonderfully. I cannot wait to put some miniatures on this. So one more piece I'm going to point out here that I didn't see before, it's the first time I had ever used it, is these two paper products here. So you see the palmetto bushes and then the fern up front. Those are actually from Green Stuff World as well. They're laser cut paper, and they worked really awesome. They were pretty simple to use, but I had just gotten them. I had never used them before, so I didn't really want to put them into this video as I was figuring out how to use them. I had so much fun with this build, and I really hope that you guys got something out of this. I can't wait to see what you guys put up here, and I'm going to throw the challenge out there. Who's next to make a Coven creation?